The essence of St George's for me is transformation that begins in a small way with the child and, like the ripples of a pool, touches the lives of others.
That's actually what education should be about. If education is not a revolutionary act, then it's not worth having. It needs to be changing children's lives.
What's very important at St George's is the consistency that we achieve across the school. And when anybody comes to visit, it's the real thing that sticks out for people is the consistency of practice and the consistency of approach. So we have a handbook at St George's which tells everybody this is how we do things here. It's the St George's way. And people get to see that before they choose to come and work here, because coming to work here is a choice, and we want people to really understand what it's about to come and work here and to commit to being here.
There are no simplistic answers to whole school transformation. And again, I think that's a very obvious thing. And anybody who comes along and says, well, this is the one thing, it's a nonsense. It's an orchestration of many different things. So we have to have systems, but not any old system. They have to be systems that are actually going to work. So if you look at the phonic work that goes on in the school, the way in which the school does it works. I know it works because the children learn to read and write, and the phonics is part of that particular journey. So you have to have strong systems that work. They have to be thoughtfully refined. You have to have the vision. You have to have the environment. It's an orchestration of many, many different things. If you're going to transform a school, it won't happen overnight. It takes a long time. And you have to be emotionally resilient and emotionally intelligent. You have to know in your heart, we can do this. We can do this, and we are going to do this, but we will need to stick at it. Change is a process. Initially, often people get excited, and nearly always is a difficult bit. And you have to work through that struggle to come out the other end. The key thing for me is we have to change the habits. We have to change what teachers do. Because sometimes I can change their understanding, but that may not alter classroom practice at all. And there's always a gap between what you know and what you do anyway. So you have to change what they do, the habits that they have in the classroom. Change the practice. The deep understanding and beliefs and all of that can follow on later on, but you've got to change what they actually do. So we start doing things that work and stop doing things that don't work.
So when we focus into the academic side of it, which is obviously so important for us, it's not one particular, the way we teach maths, the way we teach English, it's everything together. So taught for writing, reciprocal reading, sounds right and maths mastery work so well together so that we have the crucial elements of the talk and the fact that the language is running consistently throughout all of those. The consistency and the outstanding quality of teaching and the subject knowledge that come with all of those processes are all really important. And that's how it works so well all together.
They have strong systems for cumulative learning. So what happens here is revisited and built upon year after year after year after year. And that is partly why nearly all the children leave able to read and write.
Well, here at St George's we teach in a very intertwined way. Our Sounds Right phonics programme is very much the sort of core for our teaching of both reading and writing. And that's very clear in our teaching, and visitors certainly have noticed how consistent the teaching is through the school because of the language we use around teaching sounds and phonics, which is within reading and writing. So the consistency of the teaching is very, very clear and prevents any complications and misunderstandings with the children. So it's a very supportive programme, not only for the children but for the teachers, because it's very clear what the children need to know, what skills they need and what concepts they need to understand in order to be able to crack our code for reading and spelling, which is really quite complicated English.
Yeah, what made St George's successful, I think, was the fact that they implemented the programme with great fidelity. But in order to do that, you've got to understand how it works. So an intellectual understanding on the part of the people who implement it, and a real desire to do it and to make sure that everybody's doing it. One thing that differentiates, I think, St. George's from many other schools, and I have seen it in other schools where it's worked very, very successfully. It's always driven by the head teacher. The head teacher is the person who makes sure that what they want doing, it gets done.
Is sore. Ow. Your turn. Oh dear. My turn. Ow. Your turn. Ow. There are some different ways of spelling the sound ow. Spelling the sound ow. We are going to build some words with the sound ow in it. The first word goes into column 1. I wonder which spelling we need to use. Jaheem, we are going to build the word cow. My turn, cow. Your turn, cow. Jaheem, please come and build the word cow. It is going into column 1. Oh, I didn't hear you. Thank you.
Ow. Cow. Cow.
Jaheem, what word are we building? Cow. Ow. Ow. How many sounds are in the word cow, Philip?
2. There are 2 sounds in cow.
Thank you.
Now, we also read some 2-syllable words with the j spellings, and we wrote 2 of them in our books yesterday. Let's say the sounds and read these words.
Joy. Enjoy.
Enjoy. We enjoy phonics, don't we?
Yeah.
Let's try this one. Ready? Everybody?
Mag. If.
Let's try that again. Mag. Ne.
I find
Ing. Magnifying. And that's how we read those tricky words, by using our syllables, and you're getting so good at that.
Henry. But tomorrow I will be King Henry.
In a Talk for Writing session, we wouldn't necessarily use sounds right concepts within the actual teaching part, but when they're actually writing, the way that we support them and help them with their spelling, we would always use sounds right methods.
So as a Talk for Writing school, we believe that any writing has an origin in thinking and speaking, so that therefore you can map out in pictures anything you therefore afterwards want to write. So initially in nursery, they'll start with what is a sentence, and they'll box up what is a sentence, which then develops to me, well, box up a paragraph. And you can see the really clear links throughout the school. Then I've used that in history as well and in science, so that they associate the pictures with words, and it just helps them to link it all up.
Rhino's great big itch. Rhino had a great big itch. So he twisted, he turned, he wiggled, and he rolled, but the itch wouldn't go.
And I think that's where the Talk for Writing helps so much for the new starters, because the sentence structure and the language patterns that they're learning are so well embedded so quickly that very, very quickly children are kind of established within that, the language structure, and they can just pick up stories, and then obviously they can write their own stories and feel successful very quickly.
How to be a superstar. Would you like to be a St. George's superstar? If so, these set of instructions will show you exactly what to do.
And the children really get to grip with what those words actually mean and make sure that they can use them in context. So that's been really important throughout the curriculum as well.
Yeah,
good go. It means finding and making new facts. So we had this, didn't we? Because we were finding our new fact. For derive, our known fact, we know that one already. Multiplication, place value, commutative, and inverse. Remember, we did a big one for inverse and commutative. Let's say our star words together. Ready? Derive, known fact, multiplication, place value, commutative, inverse. Who can remind me then, what did our commutative mean? What did commutative mean, Taja?
They're constantly refining what they're doing. Talk for writing is not, it's an idea, it's a concept, it's teaching strategies and approaches, but it isn't fixed. So if you went to different schools that do it, they will do it in slightly different ways. And I think that's important because all schools are different, all communities are different, every child is different, and the teachers need to be adapting what they're doing to meet the needs of the children. So if the approaches are not flexible and don't use what we call formative assessment, forming your next steps in the light of where the child is and taking the child with you, if it's not like that, it's not going to work terribly well.
So reciprocal reading, the premise of reciprocal reading is that it's very discussion based, lots of oral language. Vocabulary is a really big part of it, again, which you'll see mirrored from the English. And when the children are reading a text, we really focus on a looking question, a clue question, and a thinking question. So the children are being taught the skills of comprehension.
What do you think might happen?
What do you think is going to happen?
What's going to happen next? That's your prediction. So have a think with your partner. I want you to make a prediction about what's going to happen right at the end of this story. Where's Michael going to go? What's going to happen? Don't turn the page because you're going to make your own prediction. Off you go with your partner.
So finish doing your matching your nouns to your picture and then have a think about what that might mean that we're going to do today.
And our thinking question. What's our thinking question? When we looked out the window, we said our thinking question would be, is it a good thing if it rains?
We had mixed answers because it could be because you could help plants grow, but it might not be because it might flood some people, some countries.
Okay, so who's right? What's the right answer?
There isn't one.
And I really like to focus on reading, so I choose maybe a teacher child to come up and read it, model it to the class with their confident voice. And that's another really important thing, making sure they're using their confident voice whilst reading.
He walked up the path and knocked on the door.
Because words have the power to change your mind. And so reading has this very profound, almost spiritual quality to it.
So classroom management is crucial for us because obviously behaviour is outstanding, but it's not always been outstanding, and to make it outstanding it requires a lot of work. So there's a lot that's going on under the surface. So in terms of classroom management, we do lots of singing, lots of transitions that are sung so that we're not having to raise our voices ever. And there's lots of little things that you'll see. So 1, 2, 3, but with the non-verbal, means that children can stand up, move quietly to their tables and sit down without teachers even having to use their voice. Thinking thumbs is another way that children aren't having to kind of flap their hands around the classroom, and it's just that really subtle, I'm thinking and I know the answer. And what we make sure that we do is that whenever we see something that a teacher's doing that's really effective, everyone else will very quickly see that as well. We will implement it as a leadership team, everyone will do it, and then it will become part of the handbook. So very often things change like that when we see something work really well, and then quickly it becomes a whole school system.
And it is ultimately for the children. We, like I've said before, we have a choice to come to school, to work into this school. And my choice is to be fully committed to St George's School. I have great pleasure with even the challenges that one faces. I think that over the years, coming back into education as a teacher and as a professional, it made me realise that every minute counts to every child. We constantly figure out everything about that child. We want to know about them. We want to know what helps them along their journey here in St George's, whether it be academically, socially, medically, all of those things that we need to know to be able to make their life, to integrate into St George's just as well as anybody else. I think families trust us, even when messages are hard for them. We're honest.
The teachers and the head teacher, they know our children very well and they know their needs. They teach them to be grateful about everything and to respect more, to show respect to other people.
I'm a product of the U.S. school systems, and I've seen a lot of different things, but I've never seen this level of interest, interaction, and care.
I mean, I found that children misbehaved to cover up the fact that they could not read. Because if I'm being difficult, you're not going to ask me to read, are you? And it was a common way of dealing with a sense of not being able to achieve very much.
And Sounds Right, interestingly, with behaviour, the Sounds Right programme is very linked to the way we would want to be talking to children about behaviour. So, it was written alongside educational psychologists, so it's all about the positive correction.
I made a mistake. Sometimes it happens, doesn't it? Doesn't matter. What do we have to do? Try again. I have to try again. Everybody makes mistakes, so.
And this badge is the Confident Voice Society badge, which means always speaking, always trying to be as confident as possible. Never let it, even if maybe you make a mistake.
Well, I think that confident voice is essential, way more than important, because you have to learn to use your voice when it's most appropriate, and your voice, you should be heard. You must be heard, because children have a right to speak.
St George's helps me to be the best learner I can be because of just the relationships that the pupils have with the teachers. It's really special, and if we didn't have them, then I think the school would be a very, very different place.
The teacher, Miss Griffin, she's funny, and she always puts a joke even when she's upset.
Well, the thing that I really think is really important and that I really like the most is that, especially our head teacher, Miss Collymore, I think she's very humble, because not too long ago, one of the school cleaners that helps clean the school wasn't in, so instead of she was kind enough to take out some of her time to clean the school for us, and I think that's really sweet of her. I think that what integrity really does mean to me is, even if there is absolutely no one there, you're always doing the right thing. And that's one of the key skills to have in life, because if you didn't do that, then life wouldn't be that nice. Sometimes you have to, even if there are some bad influence around you, you have to make that choice for yourself to make sure you're always doing the right thing. So I think that's really important to have integrity. This one is a superstar badge, and I think this is one of my favourites because it sort of links to integrity, because at the back of every classroom there's a chart that says happy, and along down the side it says every person's name. So the H stands for homework, always doing your homework to the best standard that it can possibly be. The A stands for your attitude to learning, always having a positive attitude and trying to do the best that you can be in your learning. The first P means punctuality, always coming into school early and on time. And then the other P means participation, that you're always joining in the class and lessons, because that does really help a lot. And then the Y stands for yourself, just really having that true integrity and making sure that, you know, you don't work hard for it and then just let it go, that it's always there. So that's what happened to the superstar.
The important thing in a successful school is not to rest on your laurels and not to settle. And we never settle. But we don't do it in a way that's about never feeling that we're good enough. It's about, no, we want this to be even better, but not because we think it's wrong. So we are always just growing the programmes, working with the creators of the programmes to just take that next step to make it even better.
And again, this is another feature of places like St George's. Why do the teachers love it? They love it because they know they're making a difference. They love that. You know, why else would you teach if you aren't making a difference to children's lives? This is the job. This is what we should be doing. And if we aren't doing it, if it's not working, whatever we're doing, we've got to take another look, and we need to go somewhere down the road and see what is working and bring it back and start to work on that and develop that ourselves.
As I do the work here, I'm most grateful for the team that I work with, because I don't feel like I'm on my own. I know that I've got Mrs. Plummer, Teresa. We work together for every English lesson. We plan together.
So with someone like Solomia, she arrived with us at the beginning of last year with no English at all and got straight onto the Sounds Right programme. And by the end of that first year with us, she was at the levels that we would expect children at the end of that year to be. And then this year, she's absolutely flourished. So she's taken those basics and she's gone forward with them. And using all of our programmes that we know work so well for children, she has absolutely thrived. And, you know, you can see how successful she's been in school, but not just as an academic learner, but also as the whole person.
And she said not a word within the class for about 6 months. And then suddenly, sort of sometime in the spring term, February, March time, she started to really come together, blossom. She was beginning to freely write. She was reading phonic reading books very well by then, and had started to take on English with all her friends as well.
Once there lived a hedonist witch who longed to be beautiful. As the years passed, her ugliness has grown. Resilience means to me that you have to keep on going, never stop, just keep on going.
I am just so grateful for the opportunity to work in this community with these children, because every day, and I've been here 14 years, and every day I jump out of bed ready to come here to work with these children, because they have such passion and such determination, and you know, they have to put some real effort in themselves to be the best they can be. And I'm always so proud of them, and to have the opportunity to work with them and their families and to see them really thrive and become, you know, great little people. When they leave us at 11, you know, we see that character really established, and we know that we're sending them off to great secondary schools to be the best that they can be going into adulthood. And, you know, there's no more privilege in the world than being able to work with that every day.